Welcome to Cultivating Courage, a podcast exploring fear, courage, and stepping into a life filled with purpose, connection, and love. Hey guys, this week we are back with Robert and Shona from We Meet Again Coaching. Do y'all set traps for your partners so that they can never quite win? That part of our conversation coming up was mind-blowing to me. We're also chatting about whether or not the relationship of your dreams is actually within your grasp. Stay tuned to find out. Welcome back to another episode of Cultivating Courage. Thank you for joining us. By us, I mean me, Kristin Robinson, and Matt Maxwell.
Hi, I'm Matt Maxwell. I'm also the host of the Cultivating Courage podcast.
Yeah. Listen, I feel like at this point, people know who we are.
No, this is their first time listening. These guys have like thousands of fans. They're all going to be listening to us and being like, who are these doofuses?
No, they're going to be like, they are fun.
Listen to other
them.
episodes. It's better in other ones. And listen to this one. No, this is going to be a great episode. I just meant like our intro is probably better in some of them. We talk about volleyball.
Mm-hmm. You do. I feel
Shona
like
used to be a swimmer. Let's get to like some other cool stuff we haven't talked about, right? Swimmer, swim coach, still doing it?
No, I traded in the goggles.
But you're doing some like teenage women work.
Yes.
Is that right? Still?
Yeah.
So like still kind of in that world.
Yes.
That's awesome. And Bob is in addition to both being awesome coaches, I'm just giving some other info about them. Mm-hmm. This is what I know. Bob's a rocker.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Do you play bass? What do you play?
Yeah, I play bass guitar. For 33 years now, I've been playing bass guitar.
Yeah. If you guys look him up, like, is there an easy way for them to see your long hair?
No.
Okay. Bob was a rocker.
He like
Poison.
No.
No.
Way
Guns N' Roses.
No, way heavier. Like
Way
Slayer.
heavier. Oh yeah, Slayer.
Megadeth, Creator.
Yeah.
All that.
Yeah, that
all the good
makes sense.
stuff.
Megadeth.
Yeah.
Where's Def Leppard fall in that?
metal.
Oh, way.
They're on the white side.
They're like in the playground.
Yeah,
like
yeah, okay.
5 neighborhoods over.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Swinging on the swing set.
You guys are like,
Yeah. The angrier and louder, the better. I was
man.
extremely angry child growing up.
I could probably use a little bit of like.
Maybe you should.
I have never been into
like
metal.
I
think I could do like a metal session, just like yell along with it.
We'll get in our
You should
car.
be the drummer.
Yeah.
And we have the
Anger on
mics so you can
purpose.
scream and pound
Oh
on
yeah,
things.
actually that would be great.
Yeah.
We'll like jump in the car to go somewhere and start the car and be like, and I was like, what the hell? Like,
I'm an empath, so I'm like, oh my god, what is this? Breathe.
Yeah. Oh, that's me too.
Like,
I'm
maybe
pretty
it would
sure.
be really great if before you got out of the car, you could at least turn down the radio.
Cracks me up. It just, I actually really love it because it just reminds me of his just like, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had
Rocker side.
someone
So hot.
shared a video of me. I think when I was like 15, they like found some clip somewhere and they sent it to me on Facebook Messenger, and I'm just like, I had hair like down to my waist. I'm just like slamming my head and going crazy, and I'm like, oh, now I know why I have all these neck problems as like a 44-year-old man. Makes sense.
So Robert, you went from a career in like death metal to nursing.
Yes, I sure did.
He's a
He
multifaceted.
is a renaissance man.
Yep.
It's incredible.
Yeah, I was a cardiac critical care nurse for bedside for about 10 years, and then did healthcare administration for about another 10. Went and got my MBA and ran a large medical group here in Chicago. Yeah, and like I was interviewed by the New York Times one time about like tattoos in the workplace because I'm like covered, and
What did you say? Was it like in defense of?
Yeah, it was basically like, it doesn't, God, this was probably 10 years ago. I think we've come a long way as a society around tattoo culture. But, how tattoos typically are covered up in the workplace, and they have a certain distinction associated with them about who the person is. And I'm walking into work in a suit, going into boardrooms with the C-suite and leading very large meetings and being very important. And underneath me, I look like a degenerate, which is like...
Yeah, total degenerate.
Total.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I was
wouldn't
actually
change it.
really nervous to go out with him because because of his tattoos.
Yeah.
On our first date, I was wearing...
I have virgin skin.
Yeah.
On our first date, I was wearing like a long sleeve shirt, and when the meal came, I unbuttoned my sleeves and rolled my things up and rolled my sleeves up, and Shauna was like, "Yeah, that kind of freaks me out," and I was just like,
What?
Yeah.
It just seems so weird. Like, why would that freak you out? Like, what do my tattoos signify for you? And
Yeah, he was scary for me. And he's like, it's just a shell. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. And then we moved on.
Deal.
And now I love them.
I used to have
Yeah.
a lot of judgment around them because in my Mormon upbringing, it was like your body is like the temple of your soul, and like you don't want to mark it, whatever. Now I think they're pretty cool. I have yet to get one though.
Have you thought about it?
The thing that I really admire about people who get tattoos, this is my perspective, is like they have got a healthy relationship with commitment.
No doubt.
For me, a lot of the reason I don't have one is because I'm like, what would I possibly like that I'd want to
50
keep on my
years from
body for
now.
my whole life? And I feel like people that get tattoos, it's like I know what I'm about, and this isn't going to change.
You
Right?
have one?
I have more than one.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the first few, probably two, the first two that I got, it was not I know who I am. It was more like teenage rebellion. Yeah, you can't tell me what to do.
Nice.
And then my other two are much more like I know what's important to me and what I want. To be about. But yeah, my first two were not that.
I feel
Her
like
survival
we could
mechanism
easily
created her
do an
tattoos.
entire episode about tattoos,
Oh, for sure.
like what they mean, what all
Why you
kinds of
have them,
stuff.
why you don't have them.
Yeah. Have you been like tempted to get any?
No.
No. So you're like now open to other people's tattoos, still no desire for one.
Correct.
No, like Robert Hart forever. Like nothing
Yeah,
like that.
he has a tattoo of mother. Yeah, no, having that like on my forehead. No.
Oh my
Big
god.
neck
Yeah,
tat.
yeah,
neck
neck
tattoo,
tat.
some knuckles.
We meet
Oh my
again.
God.
Yep.
Like
has
company branding.
He has We Meet Again.
Yeah. Well, our logo.
Yeah, I was gonna say I noticed that earlier.
That's their logo. Can you guys see it? It's pretty cool. That's their logo for
Yeah.
We Meet Again,
We love
which
it.
we haven't mentioned on this episode yet.
No, we haven't.
Is your like combined couples and dating coaching business?
Right.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah, we coach couples and singles.
And singles.
Yeah.
And I imagine, I know from your training that you can coach anyone about anything they want to create in their life
Right.
because of our
You
training. But this is like particularly for people who are looking to deepen, create their relationships.
Yeah. Or get out.
Or
Get out
get
of
out.
a relationship.
Right,
Yep.
gotcha.
Yep.
Relationship
The
transition,
whole spectrum.
creation.
Yep.
Got it.
We've helped people get out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is in a way like getting into their next relationship.
Totally.
In a way.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. So so I think it would be cool, there is the realm of like I want a relationship and how do I create one and find one and that kind of thing. And then there's like I'm in a relationship and maybe that's newer or maybe that's like I've been in one for 20 years and I want it to be better.
Yes.
Seems impossible to me.
To have a better
Yep,
relationship.
you're pretty much just stuck with
Oh.
whatever you got.
Well, I imagine if that's how you feel, that's exactly what you're
Which is
experiencing.
probably why I got
Bingo.
divorced a while ago. No, I don't actually believe that
If that's
anymore.
your truth.
I don't believe that anymore. But sometimes it feels like we're stuck.
Yep.
They're this way, I'm that way,
Is it worth it?
Walls are
How do we
up.
work it out? Yeah.
disconnected. What are some of the things you see getting in people's way of having relationships that are really satisfying, connected, loving? What do they want and what's in their way?
Ultimately, they just want to be heard and seen in a way that allows them to be them,
Yeah, like fully expressed, right?
fully expressed. So often we don't actually see the other person. We are so in our own head and our own heart that when another person expresses something, we make it mean something about ourselves.
Yeah.
And so often it's not. And that's actually one of the things that Robert and I have worked on and cultivated is like when he's in his stuff, it's not about me. It's about his healing journey or whatever he's working on, and he knows that about me too. And I think that's one of the biggest things couples want to really cultivate. The other thing is like our inner children are just screaming in our relationships, and they're screaming something. There's something out there that's like what wasn't either met or there's like some past harm that is really keeping a person in that same pattern of how they behave with another person, another loved one.
Yep.
And we get to discover that and dissect it and shift it so they can move forward in the relationship that they ultimately want to create, because it's been years of them being in that pattern, especially if they've been together for so long. Their communication patterns are, dude, I'm going to do this, then this typically happens, and then this, and then there might be an explosion or there might be some avoidance. And then, so we actually like we go back to the beginning so we can, like we said in another episode, just clear the space to create some new communication patterns.
Yeah, I think it helps you to really understand where each person is really coming from like the most base fundamental level. Like if there's some need not getting met in the relationship, like, hey, I just want to feel loved, or hey, I just want to feel heard, or I want to feel safe, like whatever very base need is there in the relationship. And oftentimes when couples come to us, they're in some level of just complaint, right? So-and-so's not like this, or we fight so much, or God, if he would just do this when I asked him to, like whatever it is, right? So creating anything from complaint or on top of complaint is not going to really address the core fundamental tension that's existing inside the relationship. So again, providing that opportunity to get just all the crap out and get all of the interpretation out. And we do that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
How do you get the interpretation out?
Point right to it. Like we just ask them, like, what are the facts of your relationship? You know, well, I just wish that he would do this. I'm like, well, that's an interpretation.
Right.
Like, what's the fact? Like, oh, he works 60 hours a week. I wish that he would spend more time with me. Great. So the fact is that your partner works 60 hours a week. That's the fact.
Right.
Then you place lots of
He
judgments.
doesn't care enough about me.
Right.
Yep.
He doesn't care about our family, or whatever else there might be on top of that.
Right. So that complaint is generated from an interpretation or a perception that may not actually be true.
Right.
And then you start to see like all of the, I don't want to say nonsense because it sounds like it's trivial, which it's not, but like all of the story and stuff we're telling ourselves about how a relationship is going is not actually true. It's something that we've created, and likely created through our lens of our fundamental need. I want to feel safe. I want to feel loved. I want to feel heard, or whatever it is.
How do people find that fundamental need? Because I'm listening to that and I get it, but I'm also thinking for me personally, like, what's my fundamental need in a relationship? And I'm not sure. So I'm curious, like, how do people discover that?
Well, in like working with us, we have some very kind of pointed exercises or tools that we walk people through, and very quickly we start to give voice to that. And if you'd like to find out what your fundamental need is, get a hold of us. Yeah. We'd be happy to work you all through it. But it's really, I think at first it's to open the door to even explore it, and even be open and willing to allow yourself to get vulnerable enough to like, oh my God, what is the need that I actually have that I'm scared to address with my partner, or scared to address with myself, that I actually that I actually need to do.
Yeah.
And likely we hold it back from our partner because for some reason we learned that we can't get it met through them, or it's dangerous to try to get it met through them. So we actually we start to learn not to ever express it.
Yeah.
And then we become needy because our needs aren't being met. And then from that needy place, that's when all the resentment, judgment, fear, shame, guilt,
And that's
blame
when like
comes
our
in.
9-year-old comes in to
Yep.
try to get whatever
Yep.
in ways that probably aren't helping us.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I had, I think, an experience of this in my last relationship where I was so angry at her. And it was like this young part, I could feel it was just like this very young energy that was just like, like mad and resistant and just like, stay away from me. And it was really intense. And it was like, I had enough distance from it that I could just kind of be with it and notice it. And it wasn't me, but it was a really strong energy. And like every time we were together, it was like, oh boy, here he is again. Like so resistant. And at first I thought it was because of this one incident where she broke up with me. And that probably was part of it because that had him go like, this isn't safe. What are we doing here?
Yep.
Right. And there was a fear around that happening again. But I kept going like, man, all right, I'm doing like anger exercises. I'm like doing everything I know to try to like release this because it was just such a hard thing to be with when I was with her. And I like just kind of kept being with it, and finally I was like, oh, like she's not a nurturing person. She doesn't nurture me. The way she has been is not like kind and nurturing. And like he wants to be held, and he wants to just like, especially like with physical affection. And like her default automatics were like to not do that. And because of whatever. But what I got was like, oh, the anger is because of that need not being met. And I wasn't aware of the need at all. I wasn't sitting there going, gosh, I wish she would just kind of cuddle with me and like stroke my hair. But like the little child really wanted that. And so finally getting to this point, like, oh, that's where all the anger is coming from. Like this need that I really deeply feel that's just not happening here. And that's not to say that it could never happen with that person, right? Then there's a chance to be like, hey, I'm actually aware, like there's this thing I really want in our relationship that I'm not experiencing.
Yeah.
And
and it
then
opens up a
there's
whole
a
new
chance for
conversation.
some other way of the relationship being.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it opens up a whole new conversation that you can have with that person on such a deeper level.
Yeah.
And we, obviously we coach couples and singles on relationships, and a lot of the work we do is actually looking at the relationship to yourself. So like in this situation, like how can you get some of those nurturing needs met by yourself?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe it's with them, and maybe it's just, it can actually be a chance for awareness, a way you can care for yourself.
Right. It's probably both, right? How can you get your own needs met, your nurturing needs met, so then you can go into a relationship without that expectation that they have to do everything. Because they will fail constantly over and over again, and it won't be enough unless you're able to take some of that need on yourself from like the adult grown-up version.
So then here's my question.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like looking at needs, I think needs is like a fantastic place to be looking, because I think a lot of us just have like some vague judgment about neediness or needs or having needs, and so we don't fulfill our needs, and we want to be needless. There's some idea that we need to be
Self-sufficient.
that
Right, yeah, we have
something,
to-
so we don't
right.
reveal our needs. We don't even get
needs are
present.
weak.
There's so much there, and it's so baked into like what's going on in the background when we're in relationships.
You bet.
Because like we do have needs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the human experience.
But there's this thing of like,
Oh no, I've got
it's
it. I got
you
it.
know, somebody told us like stop being a baby when we wanted milk when we were little, and then we were like, oh crap, I can't tell people that I'm hungry or whatever.
Yeah.
So okay, so then here's the question. A while back, I was working with my more recent coach, and we were like looking at my relationship world, and he's like, let's imagine there was a sense of like, I'm not getting my needs met in this relationship. He's like, all right, let's imagine that you are like totally cared for. Like you have known all of your needs and you are caring for them all, and you are totally cared for, then what would you choose in your relationship? And I was like, I would be in a relationship. If I really had all of my needs met and I was totally fine and happy, in that moment I was just like, I think I'd probably just be single. So, but I don't think I really want that. I think there is actually something satisfying in having a person there to meet some of our needs, or to fulfill something for each other, or but what is that balance of like, where do I just take care of myself and where do I actually invite being cared for by another human, and enjoying the richness of that experience too? I don't know, maybe it's an inquiry that can't be answered, but how do you see that?
Yeah, I see, like, what I hear is, like, to use the analogy is, if I've dug myself out of the hole and I don't need anything from someone else, why would I go create that, right? So
yeah, maybe.
So it sounds like that. How it's gone is that I've had needs. I've been in a hole. I've had some needs I needed another person to fill for me or to address for me, right? And then noticing, if I did have the opportunity where I was able to meet all the needs I had, why would I? And I think it really goes down to is asking that, why would you? Mm-hmm. Why would you invite another person into your life to create partnership with, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what's so cool. Like with Shona and I, like we were at that point where like we're both fine. We don't need anybody, mm-hmm. It's all like icing on the cake now, mm-hmm. So, and I think why you would, or why you may to consider is, how can this person actually contribute to my experience of life or make me want to be a better version of myself? Mm-hmm. And I think that's really ultimately like what we've created is, Shona calls me forth, or I call myself forth to be the best version, because I want to be that for my wife. I want to be that for my business partner and everything else that we got going on, mm-hmm. right? So it's, it's like this person is going to add to my life versus take away or try to fix or complete me in some way. That's on me. Mm-hmm. That's really ultimately on me. Mm-hmm. And coming from that place, it had me look at a lot of all my relationships. So like my friendships, relationships mm-hmm. with my family. And there's people that are out that are no longer in my life because of that. Like they're leeching off of me, or I was there to caretake them, like mm-hmm. to address the need that I had. And like that was, I don't know if it healed, or I don't know what it was, but like mm-hmm. I was able to
cared for.
Yeah, I was able to address the things I needed within first, uh-huh. right? And my own internal work and exploration and learning about myself. Uh-huh. So it's had, my relationships in the last 4 years have shifted dramatically across the board.
Uh-huh. Yeah, when you're saying that, what I was thinking of is, it's like if the relationship is based purely on some need being filled, mm-hmm. and then they do whatever they do that doesn't fill the need at some point, then it's like F you.
Yeah. How dare you?
Basically, yeah. Right? Then there's some complaint and it's like the moment of they're not responding or they're not whatever, yeah. is such like great awareness point mm-hmm. for like, oh, there's something mm-hmm. that is actually getting, and maybe there are other ways I can get that, and it could be a great place to see whether it's in a romantic relationship or any relationship.
Yep. Yeah, that reminds me, like setting up traps in relationships.
That was in my head.
That's tell me about that.
So it's like one is like not communicating what you actually need, so then that person can actually support you in getting it met. Mm-hmm. And then when they don't meet it because they had no idea you needed that, then you get to attack or be mm-hmm. right or get resentful. Uh-huh. Right? So you kind of set relationship traps. So the other one is assuming, right? You should know this, or you should know that I need this kind of thing. I said it once. Why do I have to share it another time that I need it? And Sean and I were on. We were speaking at a retreat in Savannah, Georgia this year, and we had an awesome retreat and weekend, and we're there having dinner, and I'm just like eating my dinner, super quiet, enjoying it, super content and relaxed, and we weren't talking. And I look over at Shauna, and she's crying, and I was like, "Oh my God, what's happening? What's wrong?" She's like, "Are we that boring old couple that just doesn't talk anymore?" And I was just like, but it was like such a perfect example.
Yeah.
Like, she had a need that I was completely unaware of, that she had not communicated, that had an impact to how we were experiencing our relationship together. I'm just like, they're eating and totally enjoying it.
Like,
and
this chicken is amazing.
yeah, and I was
super
like,
relaxed,
"Oh my
and
God,
I'm
we're
like,
so
oh my God,
bored."
what's wrong with us?
Well, the thing is that he should have known.
Yeah.
He should have known that you wanted to talk in that
totally.
moment.
And that's it.
It's probably that he just didn't care about you enough to be
Yep.
talking, right?
Right.
Like that's the stuff
trap.
we'll do.
Yeah,
That's the
and
trap.
the trap that I typically, and it kind of goes along with this, the trap that I've discovered with my own coach is that I expect him to meet me where my feelings are. So if I'm angry and pissed off, I want him there, right with me. And when he's not,
Makes you it like
it
elevates you to another-
like
Oh my
it
God, I'm so like
escalates
that.
my frustration, and then it gives me something to push up against and make him the bad guy. So then I attack. So that's the trap that I'm consciously like aware of, and it's really tough in those moments to be like, oh my God, am I setting my trap? Am I setting my trap? And it's the accountability with my coach that's like, how's that going? That has that continue to stay in the forefront of our relationship and everything we're working on, and we create practices around that. Like, and I've told him about my trap. Like, it's a discussion that we get to have, and when we talk about like leveling up in the past, in our previous discussion, it's like, that's the stuff that we get to deep dive into and discuss, and which ultimately brings us closer together. So that's the specific trap that I get to set and work through.
How do you guys encourage couples to have those conversations? Because I think, you can do all of this work and all of this discovery, but if you're not communicating what you're discovering to the other person, nothing's really going to change.
That's the beauty.
I mean, so that's my
That's
question.
the beauty of actually having the coaching conversation with all four of us, because we get to discover the awareness together, which ultimately makes it safe to have that conversation.
Yeah, like being in the coaching conversation as a couple creates the practice. It's like practice.
it creates
for having
the
that
awareness.
kind of conversation.
Yeah.
You become aware of it, but they're like totally supported in having a conversation because there's a space you're creating for it in the coaching.
Yeah, we've created a container for them to be safe with these awarenesses that allows them to. It's almost it creates a space that allows judgment to be non-existent, so that they can be like, oh, okay, we talked about this with Robert and Shauna, and you can have further conversations and or the practices throughout the week in between the calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a conversation this morning actually with a couple, and the one woman was like, her typical default thing, or like reflexive thing that she does in a relationship is get me out of here. Like when she's scared or triggered, her brain goes, get me out of here. And her partner, the other woman, her default or trigger was, why are you leaving? Where did everybody go? So you can see it in that relationship, how it's going to cause conflict. So, after a busy day, they come home and get in a fight. She's like, get me out of here. And the other one's like, wait, don't leave, don't leave.
Where'd
what?
you go?
So that's the fundamental tension in the relationship that's happening that, if we can get responsible for when we're in those moments, specifically in like the arguing or
Yeah.
the fighting moments, because we all have them and we'll have them. If we can realize, oh, okay, I'm wanting to flee. All right, let me just verbalize that. Hey, I'm noticing I'm wanting to get out of this conversation and just run. You know, it starts to take some of the significance away,
Yeah, exactly.
and allows you to be in partnership a little bit more with your partner and what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when that happens, this is like, I think a broader thing for you guys to get is that we stop being the one who is that.
Mm-hmm.
When we can see the pattern,
Right.
then I'm not it anymore. I can just see it.
Yeah. Or
Right.
name it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can name it, like I'm actually getting it out of being me into just a thing that happens.
Right.
Right. And then there's a way in which there's distance. Then I can start to have a choice, the other person. And if we're willing to see that those ways of being are not the other person, it's not who they are, right? It's things we do. And we've got beliefs and we've got ways that we learn to be, right? But if we can actually get out of being them into seeing them, then we have a choice. And if we can do that for a partner too,
Yeah.
God, what a gift.
yeah.
And that's ultimately what creates the shift in their communication patterns, which ultimately creates the shift in their intimacy,
Yeah.
like all over the board, their relationships with their kids, everything,
Yeah.
and even in their careers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, then I imagine too, then there's like the space for compassion around it
Yeah. I was
for
just
the
gonna
other
bring that
person.
up.
Because it's like before you were acting this way and it made me feel this way and I hate that. And right. But if we
Blame
can actually
shame.
distinguish it as a pattern, then it's like, oh, that's probably impacting you in a lot of ways, that impulse to leave. Right. And that's not just here, that's going to show up everywhere in relationship. And it's like you can bring compassion to the person, that's their automatic response to some things,
Yeah.
instead of having it be this kind of like against them.
Right.
Yeah.
Isn't
And it just takes lots of practice too, because you know the awareness is great, but actually putting it in action, especially in the moment, the heated moments, like we're gonna do it all kinds of terrible, horrible ways, and it's gonna come out sideways, and then you're gonna actually use your awareness to attack them.
I was just gonna say that. Like,
Yep.
and then
Yeah.
you're like, you're doing it again.
Yeah,
Like-
you're just doing your abandonment thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's, you know, that's where it's really
The responsibility.
the responsibility and the compassion. Like, we're not going to do this perfectly ever, you know, but how can we do it in a way that's actually going to support where we want to go as a couple? You know, what our experience of a relationship we actually want it to be, you know. Because having it go the way it's going, if it's not how we want it to be going, another 3, 6, 12 months from now,
Right.
no one's winning.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of the reasons why we like working with newer couples or even premarital coaching,
Sure.
which is one of our services, because they actually get to set that communication foundation right away in a way that is going to completely shift their however many years that they're going to be together. It's really incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm super like, I don't know, just inspired to be, I don't know, mindful and aware and create the space for vulnerability to be able to express like, this is what I'm feeling, instead of being like, I'm
You should know how I'm
uncomfortable
feeling.
and
Yeah, you
I'm
should
just-
know.
Yeah, you should know. And since you don't, I'm just gonna like completely shut down
Either-
and go over here and
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's
And it's really like putting down your shield and your weapon, right? And just being like, okay, here it is. And I mean, it's scary. It's terrifying. It's uncomfortable. It goes against everything that our brain is telling us to do, which is to run, shut down, survive, protect. Yeah.
yeah.
And what would be the potential impact of someone putting down their sword and shield?
I think like,
Deeper levels of love.
yeah, it's a level of love and partnership and joy that you've likely haven't allowed yourself to experience. You know, I mean, you can go outside and just look on the people's faces that are out there, just how sad they are, and how that there's something that's not getting addressed in their lives that if it were, there would be a whole completely different experience and one that they would actually want and be engaged in. But yeah, it's like with the deeper levels of joy and love and partnership and commitment and passion, like as high as you go, it's as low as you go too, you know? So like it's a whole
You've
full
gotta be
spectrum
open to the whole
of full
range of
expression.
experience.
Yeah, the openness is massive.
Yeah.
Yeah, the openness, the willingness to feel the whole pendulum swing.
And people
And be with
won't,
it all.
yeah, they won't think that they could have it or create it or, yeah, it's good for Robert and Shona, but not for me, you know, or they have something that I can never get. And it's really accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
And if you do the work and really take yourself on and really explore all of you and all the parts of you and how you want to be and how you want to commit to be in your future relationships.
Okay, Kristin.
Deep breaths.
I guess I'll try it out. I like my shield.
One day at a time.
Do it.
One day at a time.
Can I just leave on some armor?
Practice.
A little bit of armor.
Woe is me.
Thank you guys so much for joining us.
You
if
bet.
people want to find you, where would they find you?
You can reach us on our website at wemeetagaincoaching.com, or you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the socials.
Okay. And if someone's like curious about working with you, how would they find out whether it's a good fit?
Yeah, so we offer complimentary discovery sessions with everyone. It's typically a 30 to 60-minute call, and part of that process too is if we're a good fit for your relationship, right? Yeah. We realize that not every professional is a good fit for where you're at, and if we can't support you, we have a whole bunch of people that we think that could. So
Cool. Yeah, and we sometimes have people who are like one person is ready and the other person is not fully there. So we typically meet with that one person to help them support them in actually bringing up the conversation to their partner without making the other person wrong.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Bob's a fantastic coach. He was my very first coach, and he's so awesome. Like, powerful, brilliant, insightful, transformative work with him. So I highly recommend you guys, if you're thinking about it, to reach out. Thanks guys.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Pleasure to be here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Does that wrap up our episode? Oh, do a practice?
Sure.
Put down your sword and shield. Oh, just saying that seems scary.
Take a deep breath.
Okay, we'll do
Take
it.
some breaths.
Have a great week.
Put down your sword.
Yeah, maybe you might
take
need
a
to do
breath.
it like
Okay.
really
Take-
physically.
Put down your shield. Take a breath.
Have a great week, everybody.
We'll see you next
Stay tuned.
time.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening. I'm Matt Maxwell. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or other social media, or learn about coaching with me at thisishearthstone.com. And please check out my book, How to Hold a Cockroach, now available through Amazon. You can connect with Kristin on Instagram at Robinson Kristin, that's Kristin, or find her upcoming workshops at thrivecoachingstudio.com. Please subscribe to us wherever you listen and leave a great review.
And don't forget our practice for the week. Put down your sword and shield, especially with your partner or the people that you love the most.
We'd love to hear how it goes in the comments section wherever you listen, or leave us a note at cultivatingcouragepodcast.com.